Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another album review. My name is Christian Eschbach. Hey, everybody, Canadian content time, and we are talking about a Treble Charger. Just found this one in the collection. I don't know where this one came from. I say probably my father-in-law, one of the ones it picked up along the way somewhere. This album, right off the bat, I'm going to say it flat out off the bat. This album suffers from one major problem that I have. I'm not into the vocalist. Really quickly, his vocals get very boring on this album. Very little range, very little depth, very little variation. Now, it says that vocals are done by 3 different people on here, and it doesn't specify leads or backups. It looks like Greg Norrie and Bill Priddle are vocals, and then Rosie Martin is backup, maybe, the way this is kind of listed out here. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, that's not the point. Where I'm going with this is the vocals sound like every other pop punk band at the time. Which is really funny that I say that, because this album was released in 2000. There is 10 years between me and my wife Tracy. And Tracy, there's one particular song I'm going to get into on here, was huge in her school days. And it's really funny because when I first heard of Treble Charger was 3 years before this. And at that time, I don't remember them sounding anything like this. Buddy of mine, his name was Ian Clary. Still talk to him every once in a blue moon. He got me into trouble. Well, he didn't get me into Treble Charger. He introduced me to Treble Charger. And I really wasn't much of a fan at the time. I found them kind of basic, generic. They were punk, and most punk I find very boring and generic. This album is not a punk album, not like I remember them being. This is a punk album in that I want to say it's a post 9/11 world kind of punk. You know, that punk pop, but this is 2000, so we're not even there yet. So that means this was kind of leading the charge on that. This would have been before Green Day's American Idiot, which is the closest thing I want to compare it to. Way to go, Canadian bands. All right. I'm going to rattle off all the tracks real fast on here, and then I'm just going to point out which ones I honestly get into. You got Brand New Low, American Psycho, Business, Cheat Away, Funny, Favorite Worst Enemy, More's the Pity, I Don't Know, Wear Me Down, Another Dollar, Just What They Told Me. Okay. So the range of these songs is all over the place. Some of them are soft, some of them are heavy-ish. All of them have the same annoying voice. I just want to know how'd you go to be the next Psycho American, or the next Freak Show American Psycho. Okay, so that being said, it's the one song I'm mocking here is American Psycho. I actually love American Psycho. This was actually the one that I was laughing at when I realized, wow, what a difference like a few years can make. So, for my wife, this is a big, she was into it bopping away as, a young teenager. And I'm all, as an adult, going, oh shit, I remember when I first heard of these guys a few years ago. And I was like, this is a pretty good tune compared to when I heard that. The problem is diverse as this album is, the vocals really do hold it back. American Psycho, I really dig on. Business isn't bad. Favorite Worst Enemy isn't bad. Another Dollar isn't bad. Outside of that, a lot of the other songs, if there was a different vocalist on them, I may have appreciated them more. A lot of it, like the music though, is pop punk, and I'm not huge on the pop punk music, especially considering when it comes to punk in general, just punk as a rule. For me, it's the Sex Pistols, the Misfits, and the Ramones. Heavy on Ramones and the Misfits, Pistols. Good mix in there too. Isn't bad. But every other punk band I have heard outside of those, they're either just a bunch of yelling and screaming into a microphone, going, or they sound like a ripoff of one of the three bands I just mentioned. That did start to change later on, and it would have been bands like Treble Charger, who brought in more of that pop punk kind of thing. Green Day brought it in pretty heavy. Green Day was always pop punky right from the get go when they released the Basket Case album. And the whole general thing, like even the Basket album, a couple songs that I don't mind, but for the most part, it's just whatever, right? And that's kind of how I am about this. So part of it's the vocalist, part of it's the genre in general. I mean, there are some definitely enjoyable tunes, and the whole way around, if you are into pop punk, pick it up, man. Go check out Treble Charger. They're totally worth it. If you don't mind the vocalists from bands like Sum 41 and all those other bands that were coming out in and around that time that all had the same freaking whiny ass, high range, nasally vocals. Go for it. Me personally, I don't think I'll be doing another Treble Charger album. If one happens to land in my lap in my collection, maybe, but otherwise, I'm not going out of my way after this one. Those are my thoughts, though, my views, my opinions. Let me know what you think, folks, down below. Drop me a line, let me know what you think. Otherwise, hit that like button, the subscribe button, bell for notifications. There's a couple links also down below. Check those out. Otherwise, peace, love, take care.